Welcome back. It is Tuesday, April the 8th. And since it's Tuesday, you know what that means. It's time to talk about these USA streets, roads, highways, planes, and trains, and all other types of transportation infrastructure and what's going on in the news. On Friday, we dropped that Interstate 90 video. Looks like you guys really enjoyed that one. So stay tuned on Friday for another road that we're going to be talking about in Ontario, Canada. And it is a nice and warm 70 degrees out here in Colorado. Hope it's warm where you are. And without further ado, let's get past all that and let's get into the news stories for today. Our first story is in PA, where this town has a very unique, if to say the least, system for what they're trying to do to slow down drivers. Let's take a look at this.
This is a real road in Montgomery County. Check out the curvy lines here. We posted a story over the weekend, and it's a hot button issue. A township in Montgomery County came up with what it says is a solution to stop speeders. NBC 10's Deanna Durante live along Grays Lane in Montgomery Township. Deanna, I'm wondering, is this a hit or miss with neighbors?
Well, it depends on who you talk to. Some of them are glad that after 2 years of complaints, the township stepped up to try and do something to control speeding here. The township tells me it has been a problem here for at least 2 years. They've been investigating solutions to try and calm traffic. But due to PennDOT regulations and concerns for public safety, this is what their engineers came up with, and it was voted upon in a February board meeting.
I think it's kind of weird, but I don't know. They had fun driving up the road.
Zach's kids loved the zigzag road on Grays Lane.
At any given time, it's kind of like the Indy Speedway.
Hence the reason for the new traffic pattern here.
Well, just taking a look at this, I can already see what the problem is. The road itself is still the same width. So most people will probably just keep driving straight and just touch the lines down there. So I don't know why they thought this was going to work, but it is cute. But but I don't think it's going to really slow down people because, yeah, they're just going to drive straight through and touch the lanes. Like, who's going to zigzag through just because it's painted that way? But let's see.
They put the speed sign up. This thing, actually, if you're coming down the street, it lights up. It tells you what your speed is and things like that. That seems to work for a little bit, and then people get used to it, and they just keep going back to doing what they're doing.
Bob has lived along here for more than 20 years, and he knows the history of the problem and the attempts to get it under control. But this is a new one.
They're probably going to touch each one going down. There you go.
Looks like he's going straight.
Right, he touched the tips going down. So,
yep, there you go. So he just basically did what I was talking about. They're just going to drive straight through and just touch the edges of the yellow line. So I don't know who thought this was a good idea.
So, like you said, if you weren't here, he would have went straight down the street, and they painted that for nothing.
We watched as cars slow down and others who just drove straight through. We also watched as some handled the curves very carefully. The new lanes along Grays Lane have people talking, but it also has them frustrated.
This is just putting everybody really more at risk. And nobody was notified of anything, so we didn't have any say.
The motion to approve the chicanes, as the technical term, a traffic calming pattern that extends sidewalks, was approved by the Montgomery Township supervisors in February. On Friday, the new pattern popped up, shocking some.
Touch the line, touch the line. No.
Some residents say they do worry the new lanes will attract even more drivers who want to check it out for themselves. Others are hoping once that novelty wears off, the goal of slowing folks down will be met.
I don't know how effective or ineffective it'll be, but at least it's given us something to talk about.
And the township says the project isn't finished yet. This is merely phase one. They tell me that there will be other measures installed, some posts as well as some other materials in the center of the road as that line zigzags down the street there to try and keep those cars in those ever-changing lanes.
Well, I guess if they put posts or some type of barrier in there, it could work maybe. But as it is right now, like like you saw in the video, most people will just drive straight through. I don't see why you don't just put in speed bumps. I mean, it's tried and true method to slow down cars, but hey, Montgomery County, guys, Pennsylvania. Let's see if there was anything else.
Reporting live in Montgomery Township, Deanna Durante, NBC 10 News.
Now, something about it just makes you want to slow down when you see those squiggly lines. You don't quite know what you're getting into if you're not expecting it. All right, Deanna, thank you.
And that's exactly the point, they say.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, we asked some of our viewers what they thought about these squiggly lines.
Check this out. So far, the majority of people on Instagram say they don't believe these lines are going to work. But what do you think?
Exactly. And let me know what you guys think in the comments. Do you think these squiggly lines would actually stop people from speeding? I agree with the people on this one. I don't see the lines alone stopping speeders. Just put in a speed bump. All right, also still in Pennsylvania is Philadelphia. If you guys remember a couple years ago, I talked about on the channel, Interstate 95 collapsed in Philadelphia and it was all over the national news. Well, now NTSB, the National Transportation and Safety Board, has finished their investigation and they have figured out what the cause of that crash was that took down the mighty Interstate 95 in Philadelphia. Let's take a look.
The National Transportation Safety Board has now released its final report on that deadly collapse of I-95 in Philadelphia's Tacony section. That report cites numerous factors for the truck crash, which resulted in the highway collapsing back in 2023. Officials say the driver was going above the speed limit and was fatigued, causing him not to pay proper attention to the road. They also found antihistamines in the system, which they say caused drowsiness. Finally, the report suggests the truck's manhole was not properly closed, forcing a gasoline leak, which then ignited a larger fire. We're going to post more details from that newly released report today, coming on 6 ABC.
So there it is. Tired, speeding, just negligence all around from the driver caused an entire interstate to collapse. And if I recall, he actually died in the crash himself also, the driver of the truck. So there it is, investigation complete. It was caused by the driver, which was what many people suspected all along. Yeah, guys, do not get on the road if you are not in your right mind. I don't know why it's so hard, but that's what took down Interstate 95. All right, for this next story, Florida is one of the fastest growing states, has been one of the fastest growing states, as I've talked about numerous times on the channel. Everyone keeps moving to Florida, and it even surpassed New York, and it is continuing to grow despite all the people talking about the politics or the climate change. People keep moving to Florida. So what is happening in Florida? They are expanding. This time it is Tampa, which is one of the fastest growing metro areas in Florida. The others being Orlando and Jacksonville. And the Selmon Expressway is being expanded. Let's take a look at what's happening in Tampa.
Selmon Expressway. You know, it was built to speed up the commute through Hillsborough County, but with the amount of rapid growth in Tampa Bay, local authorities say it is now time for an expansion of the Selmon. Fox 13's Jennifer Vegas is live in our newsroom. And Jennifer, there's already a plan in the works here, so what does that look like?
Chris, it's called the South Selmon Capacity Project. That'll cover the 4.5-mile stretch between Florida Ave and McDill Ave. It's aimed to update infrastructure, increase safety, and add community features.
What once was constructed as a thoroughway to ease your work commute, Greg Slater, Tampa Hillsborough Expressway Authority CEO, says has become
this vital artery in the city all day, every day.
There's no question. Growth in
All right, before we continue with that, I want to show you guys where the Selmon is and why they're talking about it being so important in Tampa. All right, so let's just take a look down here in Florida. Here is Tampa. Let's go to the road map. All right, you see Interstate 4 right here. It's the main east-west artery. Then you got Interstate 275, which comes down here. Interstate 4 ends downtown. Well, you see this expressway right here. This is the Selmon. Let's turn on the traffic map so you can clearly see it. Look, oh, look at that traffic. A common gridlock spot right here at the interchange with I-4 and 275. Not surprised there. So this is the Selmon right here, named after Leroy Selmon, if I recall. But it connects the eastern suburbs of Tampa with downtown, and they extended it further down here so that you can get across the bay without going back up to Interstate 275. So basically, The Selmon is the connector for all these eastern suburbs of Tampa right here. That's how you get in downtown without having to go all the way up to Interstate 4 and putting even more traffic on that road. So right now, I think it's 2 lanes on each side. Let's turn this off. Okay, 6 lanes in some parts, mostly 2 lanes. But yeah, that's the Selmon. It's that main expressway right there, comes into downtown Tampa. If you've ridden it on the westbound direction, it probably has the best views of the Tampa skyline. It's really nice, very nice roadway out there in Florida. Let's continue with the story.
Tampa has skyrocketed. And with that, more cars on the road, including the Selmon Expressway. To ease your work commute, Greg Slater, Tampa Hillsborough Expressway Authority CEO, says has become
this vital artery in the city all day, every day.
There's no question, growth in Tampa has skyrocketed. And with that, more cars on the road.
Now see what they just said? Same thing that I said that some people didn't like to hear. But all this growth coming to Florida, and mostly single family homes, putting more cars on the roadways in Florida. And guess what you have to do? You have to expand the roadways.
Including the Selmon Expressway.
We are setting records every week on the Expressway.
Especially in its newest stretch, extending to the Gandy Bridge that opened.
And the new stretch is that part they're talking about, that I was talking about here. This part that goes down here. And to get you to this is the Gandy Bridge. So it's the alternative. It stops everyone from having to get on this bridge to get across from Tampa to St. Petersburg into Pinellas County.
Almost exactly 4 years ago.
That project today is seeing traffic levels that we predicted to see in 2030.
Here's a look at the average daily transactions across the entire Selmon by year. Back in 2020, nearly 131,000 people use the expressway every day.
March 7th, we hit a new high, 278,000 transactions on the expressway. 3 years ago, when I came here, the first record we set was 250. That is now our average every day.
The Expressway Authority knew it was time to match those numbers, so it created the South Selmon Capacity Project, using $300 to $400 million of revenue from tolls.
We're going to add another.
Well, that is the good thing, though. One thing I do like about Florida is that Florida's toll roads go back into the roads. So Florida, one thing good about Florida is Florida has some impressive roadway infrastructure, except for Interstate 4 and between Tampa and Orlando, but they're supposed to be fixing that later. But for the most part, Florida is they keep ahead of the game when it comes to this stuff.
In each direction to manage some of the growth, and a lot of that will be on the inside of the expressway.
Plus, update drainage infrastructure.
Rebuild all of the underpasses. So 14 underpasses in South Tampa will have newly refreshed pedestrian infrastructure, pedestrian features.
Construct a dog park off Bay to Bay. And add noise walls near residential areas.
We want to carry that look and feel that you have on Gandy Boulevard, that blue and white roadway, all the way through South Tampa, peaked by a signature bridge here at the Hillsborough River Bridge.
Plus, work with the city to build the West Riverwalk out to Bayshore Boulevard.
Nice.
Yeah, certainly a lot to look forward here. The Expressway Authority tells me right now they're working to nail down a contractor for the work, and construction should begin this time next year, starting on the downtown side.
Yeah, if you like roads and you haven't driven on the Selmon, then you probably want to go check that out. That part they're showing at the end with the spikes on top is one of the most beautiful designs I've seen around. So it is pretty cool. So they're going to extend the Riverwalk. They're going to make more of the expressway look like that. They're doing good things down in Florida. Quite impressive. And they're doing it with no state tax. How about that? All right, and this last story for today is in none other than Colorado, in the Denver suburb of Longtree. Now check this one out. This is very interesting.
Breaking news overnight. South Metro Fire is investigating a crash between a car and a light rail train.
This happened on the tracks near C-470 and I-25 near the county line station. 9 News reporter Brianna Fernandez just arrived on scene. Brianna, how's it looking out there?
Yeah, so it's a very active scene. You can see that over my shoulder. It's really hard to tell because we are literally off the highway and there's just so much going on here along I-25 and C-470. So we're seeing a very active scene, police over my shoulder. We're also seeing RTD walk up and down and focusing their investigation at this RTD area where we're seeing some tracks. We're seeing an RTD bus, or train, I should say, just stopped in this area. So let me just kind of break down what we know so far. Take a look at your screen. This all happened just before 2 this morning. South Metro Fire Rescue said that the car involved was reported to have driven off the overpass and landed on the track. So if you're
Wow. Now I'm not laughing at the person who didn't survive this crash, but did you guys hear what they just said? The car drove off the overpass. Let me show you where this area is in Colorado, so you can see how ridiculous this is. Because obviously we already know who's at fault here. It's pretty clear. But let me show you. So Lone Tree is right here. This suburb of Denver. It has the Park Meadows Mall, which is the largest mall in Colorado. So where it happened was right here at the intersection of 470 and Interstate 25. So if you look at it, you'll see that the train line goes underneath. Let's go to the satellite so you can see. So the train tracks go underneath the roadway. This is grade separated. So these ramps go over the train tracks. So pretty much from what they're saying, what appears to have happened is this car somehow drove off. And keep in mind, this ramp barriers, has walls up. So look at this. There are walls up, Jersey barriers up, concrete to stop you from going over. So this car somehow drove over one of the barriers on one of these off this road and landed on the tracks. This car drove off this ramp over the concrete barrier and landed on the tracks. Now, why do you guys think that happened? And it happened at 2 in the morning. Can anyone guess? It's probably one of two things. Actually, one of three things. I'll say three things. One, they were impaired from drinking alcohol. Two, they were impaired from some type of medication. Or three, they were looking at their cell phone. One of those three things, because there's no way you just drive off. First, you're going to hit the barrier anyway before you even get to the track. So you hit the barrier, drove over the barrier, fell onto the tracks. Let's continue.
Not familiar with this area. This is actually right near that big IKEA near northbound I-25 and C-470. So the car is pinned between the train and the wall. The operator and passenger who were on board were not injured, but according to officials, the person in the car has died. So right now we know that Colorado State Patrol, Lone Tree Police, they're investigating this crash. Back out here live, South Metro Fire says that they're going to come back once the investigation is complete. That way they can remove that vehicle off the tracks and of course get RTD back up and running. But you can see just a very active scene. We're seeing RTD also off the highway here investigating, and then also heavy police presence between City of Lone Tree Police as well as Colorado State Patrol. For now, I'm live here off northbound I-25. Brianna Fernandez for 9 News.
And they keep Brianna out here working in Colorado. I think that's like the second or third story that we've seen with her. But yeah, guys, this is wild. So right here in this area, this car just drove off and landed on the tracks. Now, one thing I will say is that it's kind of lucky that they landed on the tracks. The way you look at it, they probably could have landed onto the roadway, and that would have been even worse with other cars being out there. So fortunately, it was just the train, and the driver themselves are the only ones who were impacted. But wow, let's see what else, anything else they have to say about this one. This is crazy.
All right, Brianna, thank you so much. Of course, still a lot of questions as to how that vehicle made it onto the train tracks. A really wild scene. And of course, we have issued a traffic impact alert for drivers in that area because of what we're dealing with. We've got that interstate closure. It's the eastbound C470 ramp. It is closed this morning, headed toward northbound I-95 while that investigation is ongoing, like Brianna was saying there. So we can still see a very heavy scene out on the ramp this morning. I do want to bring you over to our map and kind of give you some context here. So again, that ramp from eastbound C470 to northbound I-25 closed. Northbound I-25 is physically open. It's just that ramp.
All right, so that was early this morning. I think the road is probably open again. Let's see. Yeah, so everything's open. Traffic is flowing nice and smooth out here now in the southern metro area. Yeah, so okay, so everything must be cleaned up by now. It's the afternoon now. So yeah, guys, do not drive while you are impaired. Do not, or that could be you that lands on the train tracks in the future. And all right, guys, that'll do it for today. Lots of projects going on around the country. I'm glad we finally got to figure out what happened on Interstate 95 with the investigation. I wish that would be bigger news story. I didn't see too many places reporting the findings of the investigation, but everybody was reporting when it actually collapsed. But now you know it was the driver's fault of the truck, just like it was the driver's fault out here in Colorado crashing onto the tracks. So today's lesson, I guess, is do not drive impaired. We're seeing what it does. But let me know what you guys think of this week's stories in the comments, especially those squiggly lines in Pennsylvania. But I'll see you guys again next Tuesday as we go through some more news. We definitely got a lot of topics to cover. Some of you guys have been sending some. I found some of my own. And so there's just a lot of stuff going on. We still got to talk about that Interstate 80 sinkhole. I might just make a separate video for that one. But thanks for watching, and I will see you next week.